Thomas Herman, CRO Executive Roundtable. You have just logged onto a pre-recorded video for the PMI Symposium, and the topic today is client communication. I have had the opportunity over decades of interacting with clients, both in a sales, marketing, service delivery, project management perspective, and really across the globe. Had this opportunity in Asia, China, Singapore, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and most in the North America. So a lot of exposure to a lot of clients in a lot of different situations. And the objective today is to try and help you gain some insights into things that will help you with client communication, be more efficient, be more effective, be more articulate, and hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that during this session. So sit back and relax, take notes if you wish. The one thing I will say is that as we go through it, you'll probably say, yeah, I've heard that before, or I do that. And that's probably true because no one person knows everything anyway. So some things will be a reminder for you. Some things will be, oh, hey, that's interesting. I wonder how I would incorporate that into my lifestyle, into the way I communicate. And if that's the case, I think that that will be a wonderful takeaway for you. So culturally, we know people are different. Different parts of the world act differently. They have different levels of expectations. But when it comes to client communication, there are some core concepts that we all need to be aware of. We all need to be more efficient in terms of how we use them, how we communicate. So hopefully you'll be able to take some of those insights away with you today. So in the course of this conversation, we will be talking about different kinds of clients. We will be talking about difficult situations, and perhaps how you might handle situations like that. We will certainly be talking about expectations, primarily how you exceed expectations, not just meet them or fail to meet them. We'll talk about vertically communicating, and we'll talk about horizontally communicating, and we'll get into some of the details about what that is. So as you take notes about this and write things down or replay it or however your style of learning might be, the one thing I want you to really take away, the one thing to remember is always be yourself. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be an actor on a stage. Don't try to be somebody else. That doesn't work for anybody. People see through that very quickly. So your style, your way, your behaviors, and take some of the things that you learn and always be looking at how do I put that into a package of communication style that works for me. That will be a great takeaway if you can do it. No scripts, no copycat. Just recognize that as you're communicating, whoever you're communicating to, everybody wants change. Everybody wants things better. Everybody wants improvements to happen, but nobody wants to change themselves. They want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to stay where they're secure and they're safe. So yeah, make it better for me by changing everything else, by changing everybody else. Now, understand that. Doesn't matter what level these people are going to be at. They can be a senior executive, they can be a team participant, they can be a sponsor, someplace in between that you're communicating with. They all want things better. So we start with that confidently that, hey, these people are here to try to make things better. Just recognizing they don't want to change either, right? It's everybody else. So keep that in mind as we go through communicating. And how do we deal then with so many different kinds of people who don't want to change, who want everything else around them to change to make their life better? Well, I suggest that you start with vision, mission, and charter. In your world, your clients, they have a company vision. They have a company mission, right? Their vision is how they're going to bring their solution, their service, their product, their something to the marketplace to make the world better. Yes, they want to make a profit. Right? They don't put that in the vision statement, nor do they really put that in the mission. The mission is about how they will accomplish their vision across the board. Now, taking it from there and going down, it's the project charter, because that's where project management comes into play. You're brought in to do something, and the project charter typically outlines what that is. But if you consider all of these in a whole, right, the vision, the mission, the charter, right, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing something. It's why we have a business. It's why we have a project. It's why you were hired to do the task that you do, right? And understanding what that means, understanding how that comes together is really important. And in all these cases, the vision, the company was created, the project was created because perhaps they need to fix something that's painful, something that's broken. But it is the reason that they're engaging, whether it's going to market to solve a bigger problem that they're trying to fix, or whether it's a project that's trying to deal with something subset into that vision and mission, or perhaps they're looking to invent something. Maybe instead of buggy whips, they want to make Model T Fords, right? Something that will invent, that will change and move things forward. Third thing they might be doing is looking to gain something, right? Gain a market advantage, gain a step on their competition, make something better, right? The old, if you build a better mousetrap type of concept. Any of these can be the reasons for the vision, for the mission, for a project charter. So understanding those, understanding where that comes from, and understanding who cares more about each one of them is really important to effectively being able to communicate when you're called upon to do that. At the company level, at vision and mission, those are the things that the C-level people care about. They're probably part of the team that created that. When they work with the entrepreneur or the CEO or the founder or whoever that might happen to be, to bring that vision forward and to accomplish the mission to get that done. In a subset of that is the project that perhaps got created to fix something that, while the vision is good, while the mission is good, then something needs to be adjusted, something needs to be done. So they create a project with a charter that says, we're going to do this so that we can accomplish the larger picture, the vision and the mission. These get into the why, right? Why are we here? Why were you hired? Why is the team put together? And the question I would ask you to think about is, where is all of this documented? It's got to be written down somewhere. Typically, if you're looking at the company vision and mission level, you are looking at maybe on the website, where they articulate who they are, what the about is. Perhaps it is in the annual report. The annual report always has a discussion section that will get into these sorts of things, but it tells you the why of the business. And within the project charter, it's more clearly defined in the project charter about what the project is and why you're here to deal with that. These are things that you need to take in and internalize and get really comfortable understanding what it is that they are about, the customer in your case, and how you tie into that and how you deliver against that. So it would not matter really if it's an external customer or an internal customer. In some cases, external means, there's a company that's paying for the service that you're about to deliver. So you have to understand the company, the organization, the industry, and that vision and mission at that level. And that's what the sponsor who said, we need to create this project in order to help accomplish something within the vision and the mission. When you get into a little lower level, you might be looking at your team lead or the participants from the company that are assigned to help accomplish the project. And they're more concerned with the detail level than they are perhaps the vision and the mission, but it all ties together. And we all need to be comfortable with that because we're going to be relating back to that on an ongoing basis as we go through this. So the final category would be the beneficiaries, right? Now, these are the folks, the departments, the business units that are going to benefit from whatever it is happening, the project, the change that's taking place. Their concern is, again, at a different level. They care about the results, the outcomes that are coming from the project. And you could even take that then and turn it internally. And a lot of times, as a project manager, you're working on internal projects. So you may not have an external customer. You may have an internal customer. So that could be your own company. It might be a business unit within the company, but whatever that might happen to be, you've got an executive who is your sponsor, somebody that held responsible and driving this at the company level to make things better. Again, that's what we're all about, and it's a key part in the communication that we're going to talk about. Team lead, same thing, external, internal. You got a team lead that's perhaps your co-leader in helping get this project done. And then you've got the team or the participants that are assigned to get it accomplished. And certainly you still are going to have beneficiaries who care more about the results than they do the project in and of itself or the details in and of itself. They're looking at the same things, but they care about them at different levels. Now, there's another concept to understand here before we go too far, and that would be they all have different motivations. Some people are here because they get a bonus. Some people are here because they might get a promotion out of a successful project and creating something new that they can be a part of. On the adverse side, they could be fearful. They could be fear of losing their job. They could be fear of insecurity. Certainly, these things can be completely unfounded, but they're fears nonetheless, and you'll have to communicate through those and work through that as we come through it. So a lot of different reasons for that. Your makeup of a project team and sometimes, of the organization you're dealing with, you're going to have some lifers. They've been there a long time and they know where the bones are buried, so to speak. But they're the ones that can help you with process and procedure and all the things that are necessary to either think about changing or improving or streamlining or whatever that might happen to be. And then you'll have some rookies. These are people that are fairly new to an organization that got assigned because they were available. So they put them on there. Some of these folks are going to be ladder climbers. They want to get their name recognized. They want to have some padded resume success stories that they're going through. So recognizing that they're all there, you just have to work through all of these, and you have to find a way to keep all of these people on task and on time. And that's where the whole concept of communication comes in. So let's dream for just a minute. In a perfect world, everybody gets the vision. They understand the mission and they have completely bought into the charter. So whatever the assignments are going to be, they're all for it, right? They'll do their tasks on time. They will put in extra hours above and beyond in order for things to be successfully done and correctly done. And they'll do them with a high level of quality. I've dreamt for that a long time. And I got to tell you, the real world always comes into play here. I have yet to see that perfect world on a project. So in the real world, you have timeline impacts and you have hurdles that you have to get through. might be turnover, right? It might be some delivery of items that are needed at certain points in order for the project or for the improvement task to go forward. And it might be that people just maybe were a little tired or didn't have their heart into something, and it causes rework. So all of these things come into that, the reality of trying to successfully walk through some level of change, some level of improvement, and get yourself to the other end. One more thing I'll comment on there is some of these people are going to have happy ears. They hear all the good things. They don't listen to you need to help with this. You need to stop and improve this. You need, those are things they don't hear. They hear about you did a great job, or look at what we accomplished. And so they think everything's hunky-dory and it's just going great. On the other side, you've got the people that I call gloom and doomers, and they don't hear the happy stuff. They only hear, we're late on this, or this isn't going to work, or we've never done it this way before. In both cases, they end up setting a false set of expectations for where a project is going to go and how it's going to get to the end result. But in those cases, right, things happen. So here's point number two. Be yourself is number one. Point number two, nobody likes to be surprised, right? They all want things to flow through. They all want things to be on time or ahead of time, and they don't want any trouble and they don't want any rework. So if nobody likes surprises, right, then we have to be communicating very effectively and very early on the issues that might be impacting that would generate a surprise at some point. Now, we don't want surprises at any level, at the team level, at the sponsor level, at the company level. The higher you get, the worse the surprise seems to feel. So we don't want them across the board. One way to do that, to help you with your communication and the style of communication you can work with, is something that really is just an early warning system, right? And there are lots of options. There are techniques and ways to do this. One of the ones that I've worked with, and it's the best way I think to explain this, right? It would be like the traffic light, which you've probably all heard about, right? The semaphore, red, yellow, green. Green means everything's a go. We're on task, we're on time, we're flowing right on through. But to go with that, you need a trending pattern. So we're green today and we're trending up. In other words, looks like we're going to get done early. Or we're green, but we're just barely green. We're starting to trend towards yellow. And we've got to make sure we're aware of this issue and that issue and this in order that we keep it on a steady green pattern. Yellow, similar, right? There are some issues here. We're still tracking against our timeline. We're still tracking against the project goal, but we could be tracking not as good towards red, or we could be tracking better towards green. And again, the third point would be it's red, the project's in jeopardy. We got a couple of major issues that we have to deal with, and we would like to see that trending towards yellow so we can get it yellow and then get it towards green. Or red says, hey, we're in trouble and we're headed this way, so some major thing is going to happen. We don't want to be there. And that's why I call it an early warning system of some kind that you can come up with. If you do that, if you come up with an early warning system that will help you, two things are going on. One is you can celebrate victories. As you have started the project, as you're moving along, small, large, doesn't matter, celebrate, reward people. I'm talking about verbal recognition, pat on the back, a clap, whatever that might happen to be. But congratulating people and telling them good things about the good things they've done makes them feel better about themselves. And it makes them feel like they're contributing and the odds are good. They're going to continue to contribute more. Now, beyond that, you're also able to express concerns on an early basis. because we know all of you, any project has built in some buffer. You've built in extra time for things that you can't plan on, that you don't know are going to be there, which is a great idea. And it's something that we all effectively use in that process. The thing you don't want to do is use that buffer too early in the process on small things that could become bigger problems later if you don't deal with them. So while you set your standard, this is the task, this is the project, this is the timeline, the early warning system allows you to call out things that are not tracking properly, that are trending the wrong way. Praise the good things that are, that get done a little ahead of time, they get done on time, and that successfully move to the next step, the next step, the next step. And that's great, but call out the ones that are not. And we're going to talk a little bit further about how to use positive wording in both the praising and in the calling out, because you don't want to get to the point where you have to deal with something that is unfixable or can't be remediated. And the sooner you get at things, the smaller the problem is that you can work on. So in that early warning system, which identifies the good and the bad that you're dealing with, you need to be communicating, and this is whether we're talking verbal or whether we're talking a phone conversation or a status report or emails or whatever it might happen to be. When you're communicating, you should always be leading with what matters to the audience. So if you're writing or communicating, talking, whatever it is, to the executive level, you're speaking in terms of the vision and the mission. You're always referring to and reminding about, this is why. So we have to deal with these because we want to get the why. We want to make sure we successfully handle all of that. If you're dealing with the project team and it's the details and the charter within the project, now you're communicating at that level because that's what they relate to. That's what they understand. So keep all of that in mind as you go forward, as you communicate. Who's the audience for what I'm about to say? When you're doing your communicating, there's another step that I want you to really think hard about. And it's this issue of expectations, right? Everybody at the beginning agrees to the charter. They agree to the timeline. So everything's a go. Now, as you're moving forward, you as the leader are communicating on all of this. One of the things that helps you maintain your credibility, it helps you maintain your own level of confidence, is to always exceed expectations. Yeah, easy for me to say, probably hard for you to do. But what I'm referring to is set the expectations so that you can exceed the expectation. If I promise you something by the end of the day, I make that promise in light of the fact that I know I can deliver at 3 o'clock. I can deliver that by noon. If you're saying we're going to have this part completed and tested by Friday, your real plan should be that it's done on Thursday, so that you've set the expectation and you've exceeded the expectation. That is something that you need to make a lifestyle, a habit, so that you're always thinking about it and setting that initial expectation correctly so that you'll be in a position of exceeding it. And that even goes for when you're asked a question. Somebody says, so if we make this change, if we agree to do this, what's the expectation? And your response is always thinking about how you would handle that expectation in a way that allows you to deliver in advance of that, so that you can exceed the expectation. You know, what that does is it makes you more confident. It makes you appear to be a stronger leader than they perhaps had initially thought. And it will benefit you down the road, not just in this project, but in the next project and the project after, because the perception is you always get done ahead of time. So it's a quick and easy way to exceed expectations if it's in your thought process, if it's in your habits, if it's in your lifestyle, and just the way you go about it. So in all of that, think about it always in the audience terms, right? In person, on the phone, online, whatever that format might happen to be. Don't get lost in the details. Don't get lost in the moment. Always keep that vision, mission, and charter concept in there and keep communicating with that. We'll talk about some phrasing and some words here in a little bit that might help you with that. But it goes across the board. Letters, emails, text, chats, the status reports you put together, whatever formats you're using, always remember that what you have put down will live forever. It just doesn't go away. Best example I can share with you is currently, just take a look at the political process. Somebody says, I'm going to run for something. I'm throwing my hat in the ring, and this is my platform. I'm this, and I'm this. And invariably, the opposition will bring up an old video clip, an old tweet, an old email, something that seems to say exactly the opposite. And then you're on the defensive. That's what you see when you're watching any of the politics. I'm not going to get political, and I don't, left, right, it doesn't matter. I just want you to see that process and see how quickly people have to be defensive when they didn't account for something that happened a long time ago. Certainly that's difficult to do, but if you're in the habit of putting things accurately and straightforwardly in your communication, verbal, online, status reports, then you don't have to worry about it. So it's about thinking hard on how you communicate, what words you put in their ears, what words you put on paper, because you don't want it to come back at the wrong time. Now, in that process, just remember this. When I said nobody likes change, but everybody wants everybody else to change, what it means is these people that we're communicating with, it means they like to stay in their own comfort zone, right? Things feel good here. I feel secure. I feel safe. And if we take this project forward, it starts to expand things and stress me out and make my comfort zone a little tense. And they don't want to be there. Now, it doesn't mean they won't go there, but it means you have to bring them through the process. And it's a gradual change, a little step here, a little step here, a little step there. That's why positive communication, putting the right things down on paper, putting the right things in their ears when you're talking, helps them to expand and to grow and to change. This is something that every project manager should really be thinking about. And so when you're doing this, again, we began with, let's do this in your own style. So when you're speaking to someone about giving them an update, it's a good idea to start with words like this. Our goal, if you'll recall, was to do this. Now, that might be the vision, it might be the charter. But if you use words like our goal, our objective, what we signed up for was to do this so that we can accomplish this, right? That's that vision, it's the mission, it's where we're going, and it starts to lead to the results, which is where the beneficiary wants to be, right? Another way to do it is say, okay, now the charter calls for this. And it might be charter calls for 1, 2, 3, 4. And look, we've already got these 2 done. So we're a good way down the path of accomplishing what the charter has asked for. So now we need to focus on this and this and this. You're reminding them of the charter that is the reason for being here. You're reminding them about the vision and the mission so they know they're working in the context of what you're supposed to get done. And sometimes you bring it back the other way. When you're into a discussion, you might say, hey, let's not forget that the reason we're here is we're tasked to do this and this and this within the charter by this particular time frame. Keeping that in mind, let's take a look at these steps and how we go forward. Right? Again, it's all phrased positively. Sometimes you have negatives that are out there, and there's pushback. And those things, when they happen, right, it's not an opportunity to confront. It's not an opportunity to be argumentative. But I would suggest that the best way to approach that is when you hear that pushback, when you hear that argumentative state starting to creep in, use phrasing, wording that sounds like this. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. So in light of the project, in light of the charter, and trying to accomplish this by this date, where do you want to go with this? Help me understand what it is you think would be the better path. Now that does a couple things, right? The first thing that it does is it builds empathy. It puts them a little bit at ease. And the second thing it does is it now puts the onus on them to come up with an idea. Most of the time, you won't get one. And you'll be able to roll back to what the project was all about. Or you'll be able to build a consensus around what the next steps are going to be forward. You don't have to be confrontational. You don't have to be argumentative. You just need to be in that positive phrasing, empathetic, and draw it out so that they're pulled into the process with you, as opposed to throwing up barriers that you now have to try to figure out how to overcome. That's an extra load that you just don't need. Now, a couple of words or phrases that you shouldn't use are things like, it's always like this. It never happens when you expect it. Never and always, words like that should not be in your vocabulary, because every time somebody says it's never going to be that way, somebody figures out how to do it. So phrasing is positive. You're empathetic. You pull them in with positive phrasing that brings them back to the vision, brings them back to the mission, brings them back to the project charter and the tasks that are at hand. Now, when we're dealing with the vertical communication on this, and this is typically, well, I shouldn't say typically, you very often will see a lot of this become verbal before it becomes a status report or a presentation that has to go forward. But remembering that from you up to the boss, up to the owner, up to the board of directors, maybe even up to the investors, you're communicating to them about a process, about a task, about a project, but you're doing it in light of vision and mission, right? Because that's why they're there. That's why they were hired on or invented the company or invested in the company, right? Is to achieve these bigger objectives. So we want to be positioned and we want to communicate how we're fitting into that. Now that means that you have to practice those words, right? The phrasing that I talked about is something, however you want to write it down in different ways or versions, you need to be practicing. We remember that when you brought us in, we put this together, our objective was to do this so that it would support the vision and the mission. And then you start to position how we're accomplishing that through the process, right? And when I say practice that, the question I would ask to you, why were you hired? Do you know exactly what it was that brought you on board? Might be in a job description. Usually it's a little vague in the job description, but you should be able to articulate and understand why you were hired, right? And in that, what is your role within the company, within the vision of the business unit? What's your team's role? right? Do you understand that, right? Questions like, so help me understand this, right? This is the charter that I was given, right? And I was tasked with this, and that was this, and I was this. So do I still have that correctly? Has the vision, has this changed any? Get that feedback, because you want to tie in that and validate who you are within the company. You want to validate the role that you play, the role that perhaps your team plays within the organization. It's critical. So you want me to do this. Do I have that correct? Has any of that changed? Do we need to make any adjustments the one way or the other? Getting that kind of feedback really gives you a level of confidence to go forward that it'll go a long way for you, right? Now, it changes just a little bit when we're talking about horizontal levels of communication. And by horizontal, what I'm talking about is your peers, right? You might be in a business unit, and that business unit has multiple departments, operations, maybe it's sales or support or finance, or there can be a lot of different groupings within. So how you interact with those people is important. And there, it's really a partnership. It's not so much the up and down, am I accomplishing your vision? Am I doing the mission that was there? But it's like, hey, we're all in this boat together, right? When I came on board, when we put this together, right, this is what we had agreed to. This is what we decided on, right? We were going to do this, you were going to do that. Are we still on the same page? Has something changed here that we need to get our arms around, right? Because the message you want to send to your peers and the wordings that you want to use, send the message that sounds like this. I succeed when you succeed. So I need to know how I help you be successful. Tell me what you need, and let's figure out a way to do that, a way to go forward, right? That is an embracing type of a message that doesn't create walls or barriers in terms of how you and the others interact with each other. Really an important thing. So the message says, I'm here for you. Okay, and again, I succeed when you succeed. So how do I help you get to that level of success? If you can do that, if you can work on that kind of wording, if you can work on that kind of messaging, right? It validates you, it validates your role within the organization. It gives you a clear understanding of relationships, and it confirms the path that you'll be able to go forward on. So, what are the takeaways today? Embracing mission, vision, and charter. Always speak, always write with words that support that. Always be looking that way. It's how we support, how I support. And again, you're always doing this in your own style. Don't use the words that I'm throwing out here today, because you might have better words, might have better ways. But it has to be from the heart. It has to be from something that you embrace, and it has to be straightforward. So I hope that's been helpful to you in terms of communication, communication styles, communication words that you might work with, right? If you took a nugget or two away, then I'm happy. And I think you would be happy too to learn a thing or two from that process. Now, because this is pre-recorded, we do not have an opportunity to do a question and answer. So this is my contact information, and I'm happy to have you reach out if you have a question, if you'd like to discuss a topic / subtopic. I'm open to doing that with you. I thank you for taking the time to go through this pre-recorded video, and I wish you all the best as you go forward in the future. Thanks very much.